Okay, today we're going to look at rearranging formulae, and in particular we're going to look at the speed equation. Now some of you might have learnt already in maths or in science that speed equals distance divided by time. And if you know that already, you might even have written a triangle to help you do some calculations, where you've put that the speed is the distance divided by the time. And you might have learnt how to use those triangles. You might have said that the speed times the time gives you the distance, and the distance divided by the speed gives you the time, and the distance divided by the time gives you the speed. And that's fantastic, but the trouble is, you've got to remember either the equation or the triangle, and you've got to know where to put the D, where to put the S, and where to put the T. And you already know that my memory is very, very bad. I can only remember a few things at a time. So the more things I can work out without having to do lots of learning, the better it is for me. So we're going to try and start from scratch and see if we can work out the answers to some questions with no starting formula and no starting triangle. So can we do it without the triangles? So let's look at a typical question. We're going to look at Sammy the super snail. And Sammy the super snail looks a bit like this. Here's Sammy. And Sammy's a very special snail, because Sammy has rocket boosters. So she's very, very fast. So our question asks us what's the speed of Sammy the super snail if she travels 300 meters in 2 seconds. So the first thing I'm going to do is think about what the key words are in this question. So I'm going to ignore all the rubbish, all of the words, all of the Sammy the super snail, and I'm going to look at my key mathematical or scientific terms. And I'm going to pick out speed, 300 meters, and 2 seconds. They're the key things that I want to be looking for in this question. So I then need to think, okay, the speed is the thing it's asking me about. I don't know the speed. I want to work out the speed. It says, what is the speed? But I do know 300 meters. So I now need to think, what is that 300 meters? What do meters measure? Well, 300 meters sounds like it's telling me a distance, because I know that meters measure distance. What about this 2s? Well, the 2s must mean seconds, 2 seconds. So seconds sounds like a time. So I've broken down my question, and I know that I'm looking for some sort of formula that includes speed, distance, and time. Now I may have learnt my triangle or my formula, but I may not. I may have to work it out. So how could I link speed and distance and time? Well, I might start to think, I've got a distance that's 300 meters. I've got a time that's 2 seconds. How could I link those to a speed? Well, what would I measure speed in if my distance is in meters and my time's in seconds? Well, kilometers per hour doesn't work, because I've got meters and seconds. And centimeters per minute doesn't work, because I've got meters and seconds. But a speed that might work would be meters per second. I could travel so many meters in so many seconds. So my speed would have units of meters per second. Now if we look really closely at this unit here, this meters per second, what's that line telling us? Well, it's telling us that we've got meters divided by seconds. In other words, the speed, which is in meters per second, its units are meters per second, must be the meters part divided by the seconds part. So if we just think about the units, it's telling me what to do with our equation. The speed in meters per second must be the distance, because that's measured in meters, divided by the time, which is measured in seconds. So just from thinking about what our units are, we've really worked out the equation. The speed is meters per second, and that's got to come from meters divided by seconds. And that's really telling me what the formula has to look like. The formula has to be speed, meters per second, equals the distance, the meters, divided by the seconds. So we've worked out our formula. It's that the speed is the distance divided by the time. Or speed equals distance over time. Now you may find it easier to learn that equation, speed equals distance divided by time. I prefer to work it out from the information we've got there. You might prefer to learn the triangle. And if you've learned the triangle, you'll know where to put the speed, where to put the distance, where to put the time. But what if you can't remember? What if you're guessing? What if we think the speed's here, the distance is here, and the time's here? That wouldn't be right. Okay, so how could we use our equation to put the letters in the right place in the triangle? Well, we've got distance divided by time. So in my triangle, I need to make sure I've got distance divided by time. So I'm going to put the distance and the time in first. I know that distance has to be at the top and time has to be at the bottom because I need distance divided by time. It tells me in my formula. So where's the speed go? The speed goes here. So I have to have distance divided by time, and that means the only place left for speed is at the bottom. Okay, so we've filled in our formula, we've filled in our triangle. We've now got three methods to get to that point. Either you can learn the triangle, or you can learn the formula, or you can do what I did and think carefully about the units, and this meters per second for speed will tell us that our formula needs to be the distance divided by the time. Okay, that's a lot of work just to get the formula or to get the triangle. Let's now use that information to try and do the question. Okay, so we now know our formula's speed in meters per second equals the distance in meters divided by the time in seconds. So let's imagine we've got our question about Sammy the super snail. She travels 300 meters in 2 seconds. Okay, all I need to do now is I've got to work out the speed of Sammy. Okay, now speed is the thing I want to find out. I don't know it yet. So I'm going to write speed, just like it is in the equation, equals. Okay, I then need to look in my equation. I need to do the distance divided by the time. Okay, so do we know the distance in the equation? Sorry, in the question. Yeah, because this number here is 300 meters. It's a distance. So we can write 300 as our distance. We can write speed equals 300 meters divided by, what do we need? We need divided by our time in seconds. Do we know our time in seconds? Yeah, our time in seconds is 2 seconds. So we can write in 2 seconds. So all we've done is used our equation that we've either worked out or remembered or used the triangle for, and we've filled in the numbers in the right place. So our distance was 300 meters. That goes here on the top. And our time was 2 seconds. That goes here on the bottom. Okay, so we can now calculate our answer, and we can say that the speed of Sammy the super snail is equal to 300 meters divided by 2 seconds. Well, 300 divided by 2, I make 150. But we've got to remember our units. And our units, again, it tells me in the equation, are meters divided by seconds. So we get 150 meters per second. So we found our answer. Sammy the super snail travels at 150 meters per second. Okay, let's get a little bit more difficult. Okay, what if we had a new question? And our new question says, what is the distance travelled by my cat Spark if he runs at 8 meters per second for 3 seconds to catch and torture a poor defenceless bird in my garden, which he quite often likes to do? Can I draw my cat? Pretty much no. Okay, there's my cat Spark. Okay, so my cat Spark runs at 8 meters per second for 3 seconds. Now this time we've already got our equation because we've worked it out, or we've remembered the formula, or we've remembered the triangle. We're going to do exactly the same thing, and we're going to write the equation out with the numbers in the right place. So this time I'm going to be thinking, do I know the speed? What is the distance? Distance, do we know that? No. What is the distance travelled by my cat Spark if he runs at 8 meters per second? Well, that sounds useful. 8 meters per second for 3 seconds. Let's go for 3 seconds. And then the rest blah, 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 is just lots and lots of words that really is there just to try and trick us. Okay, now let's look at my equation. That's confusing because we've done different colours. Okay, what is the distance travelled by my cat Spark if he runs at 8 meters per second? Well, what's this 8 meters per second? Meters per second sounds like a speed to me. So I reckon that 8 meters per second is our speed. What's the 3s? Well, that's 3 seconds, isn't it? So 3 seconds sounds like our time in seconds. What's the distance? Well, we don't know the distance. Okay, the distance is the thing we're trying to find out. We don't know it yet. So let's try and write the equation out, the formula out with the right numbers in the right place. This time, do we know the speed? Yes, this time we know the speed. It's 8 meters per second. Do we know the distance? No, we don't know the distance, so we'll have to write distance. What's that distance measured in? Meters. Do we know the time? Yes, we do know the time. The time's 3 seconds. So we're going to write the time from the equation at the top as time 3 seconds. Okay, so we've got our equation. It says our formula. It says 8 meters per second equals distance that we don't know yet divided by 3 seconds. Okay, this is trickier than last time. Last time we had 2 numbers we just had to divide. This time we've got 8 meters per second equals distance divided by 3. We want to know the missing distance. So we need to work out how we're going to rearrange this equation. Okay, I'd like to get distance on its own. Okay, so I don't really want this 3 seconds on the denominator of this fraction. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to multiply this side by 3 seconds. And that clever trick allows me to cancel out the 3's because I've times the distance by 3 seconds and then I'm dividing by 3 seconds. So if I times a number by 3 and then divide it by 3, I just get back to the original number, so I can cancel those out. But because I times this right hand side by 3 seconds, I've got to times the left hand side by 3 seconds. So I've got a new formula that says 3 seconds, that was our time, times 8 meters per second is equal to our distance in meters. So what's our distance in meters? Well, now we've got an equation that says our distance in meters is just 3 times 8. And I can do 3 times 8. I've got 24. Okay, now it sounds like our distance should be in